welcome in. I've had some requests for a little bit more information on how I prepare the backgrounds that I use to make these mindfulness pebble drawings. We start with some squares of watercolor paper. Some of these are around three, let's just say 3 by 3. I'm using water-based media, and I'm using an assortment of watercolor paints, just traditional watercolors, Gansai Tambi, which are these wonderful Japanese gouache paints. I find they're a little less opaque than our Western gouache, and they can be diluted into nice washes of translucent color. Using quite a few of the Neocolor 2 Aquarelle water-soluble wax pastels. And I'm also using twistable colors, which are a gel medium that glides on, and I really don't know what the composition of it is. There's not a lot of information on the web or in the packaging, but it dilutes with water and it makes a lovely wash. So we're going to use a little bit of that too. The backgrounds, this one's about ready to be used for the next step, where I use a waterproof permanent marker to outline pebble shapes. So you may be able to see here I've got washes of different colors, and those are built up in layers. So I'll start with a light wash that might look something like this, and then I allow that to dry, and then I'll come back in with a second color, let that dry, come back in with a third or a fourth color. And I'm not precious at all about keeping to one media. These are a bit of a mixed media endeavor. So, like I said, I'm willing to use whatever is the beautiful color that looks like it's going to go with the layers that are already there. So I've mixed up a couple of the Neocolor crayons over here, and this card is dry. Sometimes I'll wet them, sometimes I leave them dry, sometimes I start and decide to add a bit of a mist of water. There's really no wrong way to do this. And if you're new here, I'll just give you a little bit of background on what these pebble drawings are. They're not, it's not activity that's calculated to create a work of art. It's an activity that I'm engaging in just for the sake of engaging in it. The usefulness or the benefit of this is in spending time engaged in art, paying attention to where the brush meets the paper, where the pen meets the paper, and to try my best to just be in that experience as it's happening. That's the mindfulness part. It's not more complicated than that. So when we're talking about mindfulness, you may have heard that described as meditation. And this is a form of a painting meditation. And anytime you're trying to meditate, you're going to find that you have thoughts, and that is absolutely normal. That's just how our brains work. We're humans, and we spend a lot of time thinking. When you notice yourself thinking, try to just observe that as a thought. Hey, I'm having a thought. It's something my brain does all day long. Not a problem. And then invite yourself back to the activity. And your brain's going to go wandering. Oh, it just wants to do that. And it doesn't really matter how many times you have to shepherd your own thoughts back to what's right in front of you. That's just part of it. Don't try not to let yourself get upset about having your thoughts wander. Just try to come back to what's going on in front of you. That's part of the process. That's learning to be able to take our thoughts to the end is what I'm trying to learn when I'm engaging in any kind of a mindfulness exercise. So there's not a right way to do it or a wrong way to do it. It's to practice a particular mode of awareness. And the benefit is in the practice. It's not about the perfection, it's about the practice. So when I do these layers, I try to keep it under, say, 50% of the paper covered. It looks like I'm probably a little bit more on that one, but isn't that a lovely blue? I always feel like I'm struggling to leave some white space. In the finished drawings, the white space helps. Let me grab one of these so you can have a look and see how the drawing can benefit from some white space left. After I get the outlines made, then I'll go in and I'll add highlights and low lights. So yeah, don't be afraid to leave a little bit of white space, even though I'm not setting the best example. I really like putting the color on the paper. So that's okay too. So these are the gouache colors. And I believe we've got cerulean blue. Just using a little sprayer to add some water. One of the things that's helping me to be loose about the application of paint is to hold the brush towards the end of the handle. If you get up here, you're gonna be making very detailed, very deliberate little markings. That's okay too. So you're gonna find I'm gonna tell you everything's okay. What I'm going after here is the serendipity of where that paint wants to flow, and just trying to work with it in a very organic way. And I'm going to set that aside, let it dry. Sorry, keep bumping the camera there. So a little imperial violet here. I did miss this paper before I got started, and it does dry down quickly, so gotta get it nice and wet, and see if we can get this to flow a little bit. Imperial violet is it tends to pool and have dark areas and light areas. It's not quite a granulating color. If you know much about watercolors, you know some of them will dry with specks of pigment. And the Kansai Tambi, which is just beautiful paint, it tends to be pretty uniform. But I would like to get some dark areas and some light areas. So I'm just going to tap in some more. A little more water. And that color is going to bloom across that page, and it's going to give us some interesting effects that you really couldn't. I suppose you could take a photo of it and paint it out with detail, but here I'm just going to let the paint do the work. Paint and water. Hi, Dan. Welcome in. How are you doing today? I have managed to get I've managed to get a whole list of filters up on my screen, so to kind of just laugh with me as I try to see the chat. I'm just putting some paints down on some new backgrounds for the pebble drawings tonight. Oh, isn't this a I love chartreuse. It's just a fantastic color. And this one doesn't have a fancy name. It's just yellowish green. Oh, yellows and greens really liven up. They liven up most things you use them on. Oh boy, I might have a... Uh-oh. Let's see. Is that better? You know, it's not a Janelle art stream without some technical difficulties. Um, I was just camped out here with the camera not even moving at all, and then YouTube streaming gave me the error message to reorient my camera, even though I hadn't moved it. And so I touched it, and then I ended up with a whole line of filter options. So, of course, I had to push the buttons. Alrighty, we're working with just a synthetic white nylon number 4 round brush. I'm going to switch out to another brush to... Thanks for letting me know about that, Dan. I appreciate it. So we got like 6 people who scrolled by here and... Right? I mean, yeah, how can I not push the buttons? They're just right in front of my nose. And since I'm so new at this, I'm kind of giving myself, I'm not kind of, I am giving myself permission to just go with this idea that it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be. And I'm trying to get 3 live streams a week. So the excuse I'm a learner is just giving me all kinds of permission to just go with whatever is happening. So it'll improve. That's all I can say. We'll improve from here, for sure. So have you had a chance to do any art of your own this week, Dan? September is such a busy time. It doesn't seem like it should be. Seems like we should be winding down, but in the United States, we spend 18 years of our life getting ready to absolutely change gears in a big way in September, because we go from the activities of the summer into going back to school, and then you might get a break from that for a while as a young adult, or not if you go to college. And then if you start with your own family, then right back to busy September getting ready for school. So I struggled with Septembers for a while, and it took me a minute to figure out why. I just got this sort of wanderlust at the end of summer, and I just would have this feeling I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. And I finally made the connection that I had all of my life been trained to get to September and to transition. That's a time where we stop doing what we're doing and we do some other stuff. And kind of had to give myself talking to. Nope, just supposed to be doing the same old thing here. Get up, go to work. I still get it. I call it the Septembers. I get the Septembers. Get a little bit... It's not really depressed so much as just sort of dissatisfied with what's going on, and I want to tear things down and reconfigure them. And so this brush is a Sumi brush, and it was under $5. I bought it at a Japanese, might have actually just, let me say an Asian market, because it was probably not the Japanese grocery store, now that I think about it. But they often have supplies for some inks and some papers and brushes, and this was very reasonably priced, and it makes this lovely expressive line that I find very inspiring. Eat, sleep, work, repeat. Exactly. I'm scrolling up through the chat right now. I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. It was a week of thinking about how things are going. Um, and I guess doing a little thinking about where I want to invest my time. And just taking stock of the experiences that I've been going through with all things internet. You know, it's a land of parasocial relationships, right? And we're built to have social relationships, and so it's quite easy to think about things just in the way we've evolved to think about them, which is as social relationships. But things on the internet they're not that. And every once in a while, those internet relationships rear their heads up, and it's like riding a wild horse, and we have to get reminded that's not actually friendship. That's not actually what it might feel like. And, you know, as internet stuff's... I've been active on the internet since the 90s, so I've been in it a while, and I guess just enough to know that it's a prudent thing to stop every once in a while and just evaluate where you are, what you're working on. And for me, I talked a little bit about it in the last video, but I've had some major health challenges this year, and they are the type that required me to come face to face with my own mortality, which can happen at any age, and really think about how I wanted to invest my time. We're probably getting kind of bored with this yellow here. I'm just going to finish this up really quickly. I hate to waste paint. So just get that on there really quickly. And I'll grab one of these guys and put a little on here. One thing about it, when you ask yourself to go a little bit faster, it tends to make for some serendipity, which is good. So you're East Coast US, Dan? Is that right? Oh, the layout is different. Yes, this is the prep for the pebble things. So, if you look at the screen, or if you touch the screen, there should be 3 little dots. And if you touch those... Right, because I don't think I'm in vertical format, right? If I'm in vertical format, I wasn't trying to be. But if I am, you can just tap the screen twice to like it. And if I'm in horizontal format, you can tap the screen or close the chat, and then there'll be the little thumbs up guy. And then of course you have to open the chat, and I hope that YouTube does adjust this one day to prioritize all messages instead of top messages. But if you ever feel like you're in a chat and the conversation is a little bit confusing, like, oh, the creator talked about somebody and you think, well, I didn't see that person in the chat, it might be because you're on top chat instead of all chat. So this yellow was lemon yellow. Just really pretty, right? And thank you very much for the likes. I'm not exactly sure what to make of all of the information we get in the algorithm, but it does seem to be that is something that comes up in my data at the end of the streams and in my weekly reports. So apparently, I'm not going to say I don't like likes. It does give me a smile, and apparently YouTube likes it as well. So I haven't seen this information, but I've heard other creators talk about that more notifications get pushed out to their subscribers if a live stream goes on. Not everybody gets notifications, apparently, and I've had people on my wee tiny channel tell me that already too. So when you're on a live stream and you get a few likes, it pushes out notifications, and then I'll have people come in like at the 10 or 15 minute mark and go, "Oh, I just got a notification." So I suppose it's YouTube trying to save you from things that aren't popping. Did it darken? The color looks more intense when it's wet. When it dries down, it dulls down a bit. So visually, it appeared more intense, but it doesn't darken the paint. And then, because every rule's got exceptions, when I'm using watercolor pencils, they will look a particular way, and when I add water, they do become more intense and they do darken a bit. The hue gets. I think the water disperses the pigment into the paper. So. Aw, thank you. I'm gonna read that one. Dan says, every time I see one of your posts pops up for me, I like it because, well, I like the content, with a smiley face. I'm smiling right back at you. Thank you very much. Okay, let's see if we've got any of the ones I worked on at the beginning. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So this was a blue color, and now when it's dried down, it looks very green. But I'm going to go ahead and throw a little bit more color on this. And at this stage, if I can give any technical information about it, I'm trying to preserve areas that look interesting, visually interesting. And I'm trying to splotch on paint in an area that's awkward, I guess is maybe a good word to describe it. Like this area here, it's got some strange outlines and the color is we've got that blue. Well, I thought it started out as blue, but it dried down very green. And that wash has just come over that area in sort of an awkward shape, so I'm just going to obliterate it with another layer. This area right here is visually, it's got these beautiful feathered shapes that come into it, so I'm just going to leave that alone. Just blasted out a couple of really great white spots, because that's what I do. That is what I do. And here where it looks like it just got a drip. This area is got some orangey reds in it. That's lovely. I'm going to leave that one, and it's kind of boring in here, so I'll just blop in some color. Oop, I just said I was going to leave that alone. Did I leave it alone? Nope. Water media. You can blot it right out of there most of the time. I like the look of that. I'm going to go ahead and stop and set that one aside. It's fairly easy to add more. It's a little bit more complicated to remove things. So you might have noticed I have quite a few of these that I'm working on. And that is deliberate, not just for the YouTube video, but that's how I work with these. I want to just generate a stack of blanks so that, for a couple of reasons. One, so that I don't spend too much time fussing. I want to have these be sort of free-flowing and organic, not any straight lines, not too fussy. And then when I am working on the exercise of outlining the pebbles, it's really nice to have a selection, you know, 4 to 12, I suppose, is about what the stack of blanks is, and in various colors, and also to include some that are in neutrals. I'm working today with bright colors because I thought that might be more interesting for people to watch if I was working with bright colors. When it comes time to draw these, I really gravitate towards the ones that are neutrals, grays, browns. But on any particular day, I might have just a different feeling. I might want to be calmed, or I might want to be uplifted, want to go a particular emotional direction. So on a day where my energy might feel kind of frantic or unfocused, I might want to choose something that is very calm, very natural colors. And for me, I really love blues and greens, and I love the grays and browns. But a day where I'm feeling depressed and sad and life doesn't seem to have much color, then it's nice to grab one that's got some bright pinks and purples and yellows. So I guess I do fine-tune it a little bit in that way. Thinking about wiping that paint off so I could move on to the next thing, and nope, I can get one more out of it. And here's that one more. It's fun, isn't it? The way those colors diffuse in the water. This particular color is Indian red, which is, that's an old-fashioned watercolor color. Alrighty. So I think that was a pretty good selection of the first layer, and so I'm going to move on to some of the ones that have already had. This one probably has, I'm looking at, I'm seeing like at least definitely 3 and probably 4, and it's looking very medium toned. So what I'm going to do with this is lay in something a bit darker. So if you're working from pans like these, you can work from pans just directly on, but you're going to find that that paint is very concentrated and very opaque. What starts to be interesting about these is the way washes of color lay over each other, and they make these other tones emerge that you can't get that effect if you're using a really opaque layer. So I'm diluting the paint to make it translucent. What do I dip on my board? Okay. Alrighty. So I've got a couple questions here in the chat, and do I... Yes, as the colors dry, they do shift, and that is the serendipity, that is the kind of the magic of this. That I really enjoy that. So do I kind of go with whatever pops up on the paper, or do I have an idea of what you would like it to look like? When I start, I pick 2 or 3 colors that have some sort of an energy between them. And I'm not strictly working like with color theory, which is, oh, we've got a complementary color, we're using triadic arrangements. I generally, because I've been in arts for a long time, I do kind of have an innate awareness of what complementary colors are. And complementary colors are not ones that match each other, they're actually ones that are opposite each other on the color wheel. And like red and green are opposite each other on the color wheel. Blue and yellow are opposite, or purple and yellow, and blue and orange are opposite. So if you're using complementary color pairs, those are always going to have a lot of visual energy between them. And it has to do with our human visual system and rods and cones and just the way we process stuff. So I try to find a couple of colors. Like, I'm often fond of a chartreusey green. It makes almost everything pop a little bit. And I might just look and see, are those three colors looking good with each other? And start from there. Sometimes, you know, depending on my mood, if I just feel like, sometimes what more often happens is I'll pick up a color and go, nope. It's more a matter of I just don't feel like that green today. I don't feel like, and I'll just try to find a color that makes me feel a little bit more uplifted emotionally. So there are a few times, particularly if I'm doing these backgrounds to do a drawing of flowers, where I will distinctly use colors that, oranges, reds, purples, colors, pinks, things that are flower colors with dots of yellow, because most flowers have a yellow center, and then add some greens later for the foliage of the flowers. But for the pebbles, I'm just trying to find things that have a harmonious feel when they're together. And of course, every once in a while I'll do one that's just a real clunker. And when I do that, I take one of those, one of these. It's a very smooth media that blends on, and I will just apply that and try to get the colors back down to a dull roar. And here's one that's just gone a little bit overboard and just doesn't, just feels like I'm not sure where the lines are going to go. So I will use this Twistable Colors in white, and I just take it down a notch, and it's very blendable. And then I might just put in some more layers of watercolor after this. This does take a little bit of time to, it's not wet, but it has a sort of tagginess to it for a few minutes. And then it dries down a bit. And you saw me earlier just draw some onto the palette and then wet it down. So yeah. That just sort of softens everything, and yeah. Likewise, if it's too light, I have brought these Twistable Colors in some dark tones, and there's a brown that I like to use on them as well. So I think we also had a question here. Kind of looks like oh, space. Mm-hmm. So what did I dip on my board? You mean this area here? I'm tipping out a little bit of the media, and it could be dipping out a little bit of these gouache paints. I've also scribble a little bit with the watercolor crayons. This is a craft mat with a little bit of the surface is textured, so it catches the media pretty good. And then I can also, we'll really mix it up here. You can usually put this Twistable color right on here too. And then from there, I'll either use the brush to dip some water on, or just a little spray bottle, just plain old water. If I'm getting really fancy, I will use distilled water. if you live in an area where you've got well water and you have a lot of minerals in your water, they can dry and they can leave little mineral bits. So if you find that you're getting a strange deposit, um, switch to distilled water. It costs about $1 a gallon. Alrighty, so that was orange and a blue. When you mix those together, it'll take you to a neutral. But kind of a neutral with some energy that's different than just grabbing the brown crayon. So the complementary colors that I was showing a little bit ago, those, if you mix red and green, you'll get a brown. That's how artists, watercolor painters usually get their intermediate colors and their neutrals. And it looks like seaweed going on. It'll dry down and it'll be kind of cool though. We need a little bit of dark in this one. It's looks like a piece of paper towel underneath the Easter eggs. That's what it looks like. So a little bit of white paper toweling can take up some of these when they are in an area that you don't want it. Now, right in the middle of this, there's this blue area that just looks like a square, and so I'm just gonna wet that paint. And then when it dries down, we're gonna it'll soften that line a bit. It just had kind of a harsh outline that usually when I get to the outlining part of this, I will take the permanent ink right over anything that's too harsh of a border and adjust it that way. Alright, I don't love it. We don't have to love them all. They're not kittens. So we did this purple one earlier, and I was talking about how the pigments in that particular paint like to dissipate out with the water. It's kind of fun. like that. That one looks a little bit like sea glass green. Okay. When I start feeling a little bit tense on these, I go to a bigger, floppier brush. Because it's harder to make little fussy details when you use a bigger, floppier brush. And I'm not painting mullions on a window pane or shingles on a cottage in a watercolor. I'm just putting some paint on paper. Okay. Let's see. That was raw umber. It's kind of a neutral. I think we'll pull that one out. And do I catch myself fussing over them every dang time, Dan? Every time. Well, we can make it as complicated, you know, the more paint colors you have, the more you complicate it, but you probably could paint some fairly successful renderings with 3 or 4 or 6 individual watercolors if they were chosen carefully. Let me show you what I mean. So in color theory, if you've got red, blue, and yellow, you can mix purple, green, and orange, and then in between those, your yellow, orange, your red, violet. Okay. So from here, this is a very, this color is rose madder, and it's very magenta. And if you're using cyan blue, process yellow, and process red, which is very close to magenta, you can blend a lot of really beautiful colors where the hue is very identifiable and beautiful. I need to slow down a little bit. I'm making a mess. And let's just show you what happens when you get these colors mixed in together. You can get a nice clear purple. So you can get this whole range of colors just out of the two. And that comes with just a little bit of practice. Oop. Take that red out of there. That's one of the fun things about these squares is they are a way to experiment with all of the ways the colors do blend. Now I want this one to just go wild, so I'm going to lay some water on it and we'll come back to it. So one of the other ways I add texture to these is through splattering, and it's a bit messy, so move stuff a bit out of the way, and I just have a wet brush full of pigment that's pretty much straight out of the pan. It's not diluted. If you dilute it, that'll work too, but your spots will dissipate more. So if you want your speckles to stay nice and speckly, keep the paint a little bit thicker. And I'm just tapping it down onto my finger with kind of a tapping motion. The first time you do that, you might want to put some paper towels down. I've done it quite a bit, so I know how far the paint flies when I do it. But it can get messy. I can consolidate this paint down, blend it all in, and we may have reached the finger painting portion of tonight's program. You may have noticed I'm working somewhat light to dark, and that is because watercolors are an additive media, meaning that if I started dark and then tried to put light on, I couldn't because they're translucent. So in order to have areas where it's light, I need to start with those. And that's different from particularly acrylic paints, where you can put white over top and have it cover up the colors underneath. But with this, it's not so much a factor when you're just doing things that are non-representational, like these are just basically big blotches of color. But if you were to be, painting a landscape or something like that, you would want to work from your lightest wash to your darkest wash. Because once you've got it dark, it's really, with this media, it's, you can't, well, I won't say that you can't. It's difficult, and you have to bring in another media like an acrylic ink that's opaque, white, or a different sort of a paint. There are white, you can buy a tube of white watercolor paint, but you will find that it doesn't cover a dark wash. So, all right, I think I like that right where it's at. And I'm going to clean this up a bit, and I think we'll finish up. I think you've got an idea that you can, hopefully the idea you take away from this is that you can use whatever colors. 2 layers doesn't seem to quite get it. 3 layers is sometimes will. Here's a 3, and you can see it definitely could use another layer. So I probably don't do any more than I'm thinking I might have done some that had 6 or 7 layers, but if you're going beyond that, it's only a 3x3 piece of paper. Branch out, have more fun on another piece of paper. But let's do a little outline, shall we, to finish up, and I'm gonna clear this out. And I find the camera does a little bit of a better job focusing with the wood grain, so we'll pull out our working palette and check the chat real quick. The purple and yellow one is for, yeah, I Sure. Oh, okay, maybe before we do that. So Dan says I could pick 3 random colors and make a rather interesting color square with those paints. Okay. You want to try it? I'll let you pick. Why don't we just do that real quickly? What looks interesting to you? You tell me. And we'll see what happens. I like that. We have some other choices here too that we can get a focus on there. A teal, a pink, and a purple. Okay. Do you like this pink? Cherry blossom pink. Let's go with that one. So we've got aubergine. This, I think, is lilac. It's kind of a middle of the road purple, and then here's a red purple. Middle purple. Alrighty. And I think this is malachite green. That's pretty close to teal. Will that work? Alrighty. So watercolor paints or Tambi that are in pans are really easy to get going. You just spray a little water in there, let it sit for a minute. I'm gonna hold the teal off and use that last because that will be the darkest, and I'm gonna get our purple started up here. So with watercolor paper, if you you can tape it down, but I'm working so small, so I don't really want to tape down the edges on anything this small. But if you spray both sides, that'll keep it from curling up, which makes working with it a little bit easier. Activate that one. So it makes a bit of fluid paint in there pretty quickly. Oops. So it just feels like the brush is a little dry. It's probably challenging to explain how to get the consistency right. It's something that comes with practice, so you just have to play with it. If you find that you're putting the brush on the paper and it's dragging a little bit, you might need more water in your media. Ooh, good choice on that purple. I like that. We've got enough of that one. Alrighty, let's give those a little minute to dry down, see what you guys are chatting about. Robert James, hello. Robert K is asking about the workboard. This is made by Fiskars, and it is a two-sided craft mat. Have you ever seen the ones that are green, like a forest green, and they've got a yellow grid on them? It's like that, but it's translucent, and it is, I'll just wiggle it around here a little bit. It has holes on the side so that it can go in a notebook of 12 by 12. It's made for probably for card making and scrapbooking, that crowd. On one side it's a self-healing mat, and then on the other side it's a cutting mat that you can use with rotary cutters. And the other side I think is the self-healing side, and it's very smooth. I use the texture side of it because it catches the pencils a little bit, so I can lay down the media, and then protects my work surface, and also it's just kind of a convenient way for me to work. You could probably find one at Michael's craft stores or Joann's Fabrics. They have a really big craft department in the Joann's Fabrics superstores in the United States. But Fiskars is it's a brand that's boy, I think I've probably even seen it in Walmart. It's a big brand. Okay. Still a little bit wet, but let's check it, shall we? Oh yeah, easily available online. Alrighty. Not enough water in my brush. These are gorgeous together. I'm going to cheat this teal just a little bit. Okay. All right. No, you can't tell from there, but I have a big smile on my face as I'm working with these colors. There's a lot of just playful energy in them. Thank you. That was a fun combo. Clean this up before I get my elbows all over in it. That's another advantage of when you're working with water media, is it cleans up and it rarely makes a mess that's a stain that I can't cope with. Well, I've just got everything everywhere, didn't I? Oh, Robert said GM used to have a blue like that. Yeah, they did. I want to say it was like Chevrolet blue, but yeah, I know what you're talking about there. I always liked the Plymouth colors were they were spectacular, and AMC AMC put some really spectacular colors on there. Remember that, like, about the, I don't know, the Javelin. The Javelin came in a purple. It was almost like this purple, crazy. You guys get me off topic. I'll be talking cars, which is okay. Ooh. I like a colored vehicle myself. I've had two cars that were bright yellow, and if I ever had a chance to have a bright yellow car again, I would drive it because people don't pull out in front of you. I also had silver cars and white cars. And white cars, they'll look at you, give you the, yeah, I see you, and then they'll pull out in front of you. A silver car, they don't even seem to see you. They just kind of look, and you think, oh, my car's coated with invisible paint. And they pull out in front of you. But a yellow car, they'll just kind of stop and blink at you. So I prefer not being pulled out in front of by people who. Why are they in such a? Answer me this. Why are people in such a hurry to pull out in front of you, but then they drive 5 miles under this posted speed limit? Is it just me? Just me with the Prius drivers? Ay, ay, ay. I told you not to get me on the cars. We never really know where chat's gonna go, do we? 72 Buick. Nice. Yeah. Yeah. State Farm used to give a discount if you drove a yellow car. I had I have a little it was a late 70s Mercury Capri, and it was like taxi cab yellow. That was my first car. And uh, it's probably a good thing, what with being a new driver, it's probably good to drive something everybody can see coming. What was that thing? About a 78 or 79 Capri. They were made in Germany back then. It was a sweet little ride. Yeah, what do you think of that? That teal is something else, isn't it? It's really beautiful. Red. So tell me, Robert, do you find you're getting pulled over or given tickets that you wouldn't have used to? They used to say that red cars would get you pulled over quite a lot, and that you would maybe get tickets that you wouldn't have otherwise. Okay, you got those. What are they? The glass pack cherry bomb kind of muffler. Hi, Mary. Welcome in. The chat is giving me colors to paint for our backgrounds tonight. I was gonna sketch out a pebble drawing, and then we thought this would be more fun, and it is. I was dating a fellow for a while here, and we had a '66 Mustang that was let me think for a minute. Poppy red. 66 coupe. And we got pulled over, but we weren't never, he was a very conservative driver, but we would get pulled over by deputies and cops who just wanted to talk about the car. And I would say, well, it's for sale. And that would end the stop pretty quickly. Because if there's anything worse than owning a boat, it's owning a classic car, especially one of that vintage. It was definitely a fixer repair daily kind of a deal, but it was sure fun. We drove it all over the place for a summer. Nice. Oh, that's Robert says 68 Cougar for a short time, and yeah, you just got a belly. That's a sweet ride. Had it been cared for along the way, or had somebody thrown a lift kit on it and thrashed it? I always think if you can find one that's just been garaged and treated like somebody's baby. Uh, Robert James hasn't been pulled over in many years. Good going. Yeah, Dan K has a truck that's dark blue gray and it must blend into the asphalt. I do think it's I think it's true. I used to drive a Volkswagen Rabbit that was bright yellow, and then I got my hands on a Volkswagen Rabbit GTI. It was made in Canada. So basically the same body style, but it was silver with a red and black trim. And I mean, it had twice the engine, right? So there was. I mean, the Rabbit went along. You know, the gearing ratio on a Volkswagen's pretty good. They'll go down the road, and if you put your foot in it, they're very responsive. And I just in switching just the color of the car, basically, I got pulled out in front of. I can't. I mean, it was just a noticeable difference. Hi, Kitty. Singing Kitty has made her appearance here. And, you know, the only thing I could attribute it to was one car was bright yellow and the other was silver, which is kind of asphalt colored. And so I do think that people really need. It is helpful to other drivers to have a nice bright colored car. Yeah. So you're saying the Cougar was a lot like the Mustang, but with a different body. Did the '68 have those great tail lights that went in sequence from center to outside? And I think the Cougar was had a little bit more of a luxurious interior, if I recall correctly. Yes, Dan, the colors are working beautifully together. All right, if you guys want to watch paint dry for just about 30 seconds, I'm going to go feed this hungry beast so she'll give us a little bit of peace and quiet because she is threatening to jump right in the middle of the project, and I don't think any of us want that. I know I don't. Be right back. All right, go, go, go. All right. Thank you, guys. What? Mary? What? Oh my goodness. Mary just said that I'm at 100 subscribers. That is so exciting. I'm so excited. Oh my gosh. I was holding like around the 70 mark for the longest time, and I did a couple of panels with a live streamer who has he has quite a few in the thousands of subscribers. After the last one, I came back to my channel because I know the mods had thrown up my link a couple of times, and I was really excited because I thought, why were all of these people watching? And I didn't pick up. I did pick up some later, but like during the live stream, I didn't pick anything up, and I was feeling a little bit discouraged. But, you know, we had fun during the panel, so that was all quite good. All right, these guys are just sitting here being wet, so I'm going to put them down over the air vent here for a couple of seconds. And we'll let them dry, and then we'll come back and we'll throw that purple on. Because, I mean, I'm the one painting, and I know it's not that much fun watching paint dry, so it can't be that much fun for you guys either. Let's just find a card here, and we'll do a little pebble outlining while those dry. Mary, gosh, thank you so very, very much. Thank you. I try not to beg people for subscriptions, but I figure if what I'm doing here is something that's interesting, people know how to subscribe. I don't think we have a lot of naive, that is to say, people who are just coming to YouTube and then just suddenly happening upon this as the first place they land. I think people who are on my channel have probably been around YouTube for a moment or two, so I have broken 100 subscribers tonight, and you guys were here with it, so thank you so much. Oh, Mary says she's only 40 subs away from 1,000. So, all right. The next time, I can't drop a link from my phone, but we are coming up on the time where the person who is my moderator sometimes is up and about. So if she pops in, I will certainly have her drop a link, and we'll drop a link for your channel, Mary. If you leave a comment after this, after we wrap up this live, if you want to leave a comment, I'll be happy to put a link to your channel there, and maybe we can get you to the 1,000, because that's really exciting. All right. Thank you, Robert. So, Mary, how often do you post videos, and do you post videos, lives, or shorts? Tell us a little bit about that. And then if you're not doing so, I want to really encourage you to post community posts. They're pretty easy to upload. Take your picture ahead of time and do your editing, because there really aren't editing tools for the image on YouTube. So, you know, adjust your color, get it to a square format, square-ish. But that's a really easy process, and I have found people have really responded well to. I use my community posts to put a high-quality picture of what I'm working on during the live, and I will generally try to upload a community post with a good high-quality picture, and I get a lot of good feedback on that. So if you've got projects going or something that you featured in a video, I just encourage you to do that. It doesn't really drive the numbers to getting to your YouTube milestones for getting to monetization, but it does seem to be something that my subscribers do seem to enjoy. Okay. Alrighty, those are pretty good, pretty close to dry. I just want to give you guys a little bit of a heads up. I am getting a message my phone is overheating and I've just gotten the air flowing back onto it, so hopefully it won't drop out. And if it does, it just usually takes a few seconds of getting the phone over the fan. So maybe if I warn you, nothing will happen. Let's hope. Let's put that purple on. That's really, Mary says she does paint pour. She did a live paint pour on Saturday. Oh, I'll have to take a look at that. And she does a Take a Break channel shout out every day to help other channels. The Fall Fest 24 giveaway. I haven't seen that yet, so I will check out your channel and see what you're up to with that. Nice. So, if I might ask, Mary, your daughter is what kind of level of functioning is she working with? I've got, as you probably know this because I've talked about that I am autistic, but I mean clearly I'm verbal and I have different challenges than some of the people in my family. I have one of my nibblings is nonverbal. He's 17 now, and his parents have tried everything, but he doesn't really get hungry, so they have a hard time getting him to eat. And one of the places that he will eat is, and this is going to sound horrifying to anybody who doesn't deal with autistic people, but he will eat off of the floor in the kitchen. So when you come into their house, it's shoes off, clean socks over your socks. They mop the floor multiple times a day. And of course, he's up at the table, up at the breakfast bar, and what they can get him to eat there, they're always trying that. But when it gets to a pinch, it's like, it's been 20 hours and we haven't gotten him to eat. And if you let him take his food to the floor, he'll eat. And he communicates, but he has very few words. He's pretty nonverbal. So it's such a range with this. And then what I don't know if it's correlated, but he's also an eloper, so when he gets overwhelmed, if he's out, he runs. And he just has zero regard for traffic. He will go out into 4 lanes of traffic. So that is one of our beloved family members. And then quite a few of us who've made our way through college and doing okay. Just call me technical difficulties. Oh, thanks for hanging in there. I've gotten pretty good about just taking a snapshot of what I'm going to work on before I go live for the thumbnails. But the stock images, of course, they look great, so maybe that is what Mary's talking about. Stock cake is source for thumbnails, stock photos for thumbnails. think my brain just goes, "You're an artist. You make thumbnails." I'm. You could tell I like this purple because I'm trying to cover all the spots I can with it. It's beautiful. That's pretty fun together. What do you think, Dan? Did you? I think you did a good, pulled a good three. We'll have to do this again on another one too because um, I'm enjoying this an awful lot. So, if I recall correctly, the center one I started with purple, and I don't think I got any pink on it, so I will finish with pink on this one. We have come so far in the last 25 years in understanding autism, like maybe it's just a quantum amount of understanding that's happened in this last 20-25 years. And I think in the coming years we're going to make a lot of strides, particularly in understanding autism in women. Alright, so that one's going to need some pink. Oh, your daughter had a service dog. Oh, that's married and working. Wonderful. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, when you say like 13 to 21, and that tells me that the service dog is no longer. That's really the downside of it. Yeah. Oh, the behavior's really different in the home than it is in the Mary's talking about autism therapy, behavior therapy that comes into the home, into the environment with the autistic person. And yeah, we're all really different at home than we kind of are out and about in public, for sure. So, I mean, if the object is to help the autistic person navigate public spaces, which is, I think, how therapy was really. I know when I was young, it was like, you need to act like, why can't you be normal? Act like a normal person. And so it was a lot of basically training me how to mask, how to appear to be normal. And that really just makes the autistic person easier for everybody else to be around, right? It's not fundamentally. I mean, it starts with the argument that you're going to be better off if you can get along with people out in the wild. And it's quite a social model that it prioritizes how we're seen rather than how we feel or how we are or how we function in our own lives. So bringing therapy into our environments where we are and helping us to navigate our own human challenges in our home environment seems pretty damned important. And I didn't come to my diagnosis until late 50s when I was just finally had enough of therapy for being depressed and started raising hell about why isn't this working? You know, it feels like I've got this baseline and it feels like there's something that's fundamental about what I am, and all of this therapy isn't changing it. And I keep having these shutdowns where I'll go along, things will be going good, I'm kind of coping, and then I get overwhelmed, and stuff that I was able to do easily in a previous time period in my life just become all but impossible. And it does look like depression, but the depression cures weren't curing it. And then I had this psychiatrist who said, autism is a pervasive developmental disorder. You are not in the developmental phase of your life now, are you? One day I finally just looked at her and I said, where do you think these autistic kids go when they're done with their developmental phase of their life, right? You don't think they become adults? You don't think that your colleagues might ever miss a diagnosis? And then she did the thing that therapists like to do. Okay, we'll see you next week. It's like, maybe you will, maybe you won't. I did see her the next week, but not for many after that. Hi, Tammy. Well, Tammy says she loves my art. Thank you. Yeah, we're working on some backgrounds here for pebble drawings. The pebble drawings look like this, and there's quite a few. If you go to my community page, don't do it right now, but when the live ends, if you want to go to my community page, there are pictures of the finished drawings. Okay, I get fired up here. I think we need some pink on this one. Is that where we're at? You guys keeping track of me? Keeping me honest here. Alright. I think I'll switch out brushes. That's one of the ways that you get variety in these backgrounds, is to use I like to work at uneven numbers, like 3s or 5s. That tends to give you a visual balance. And then if you work with maybe 3 different brushes, like a big moppy one, and a kind of a stiff middle one, and maybe just 3 sizes, 3 shapes, 3 textures, 3 colors, a light, dark, and a medium. If you have 3, if you only have 1 or 2, just work with what you have. You know, I think what I'm going to do on this one, I'm feeling splatters. Let's go for some splatters. So Mary, I've spent a lot of hours with you in chat, and I never realized that you have an autistic child. I think it's just such a small world. Oh yeah. Can you guys see that? That's looking really cool. I think I'm getting more on the mat than I'm getting on the painting, but that's okay. Yeah. All right. could use a little pink on it. What is normal? I don't know. But if anybody ever walks up to me and says that they're normal, I've met that guy and dated that guy, and he's not telling the truth. Because if that's normal, I want a different neighborhood. Oh, golly. I think I'm going to mop some of this up here. Let's see what we can do with it. Oh my goodness, do I have a mess going. You know you're being creative when you've got a scene in the studio. All right, we've got it down to a dull roar there. This is the one we were working on earlier with just the rose madder and then the cobalt blue I think we had. So it's washing out. I'll put another layer on that and maybe another layer after that. So this one's looking pretty much done to me. I will probably put some of that, I'll put a splatter on it of some description. Maybe a dark green and maybe that teal blue. I'll know when I come to it next. Good night, Dan K. Thank you very much for stopping in. I think I've made enough of a mess that I'll be cleaning it up for a little while now. I think we're about ready to wrap it up. I will encourage you to take some time, make some art, whether you're gonna make a background and trace some pebbles and spend a little time being mindful, spend a little time being creative. and have a nice smooth week. I hope it's productive for you. I hope that you find some peace and find some art in your week. Thank you everybody for joining tonight, and thank you for your subscriptions. Thank you for your likes. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Good night.